please have at it, Nolan and Stephen.
Thanks for having us. I appreciate it, guys. I just want to shout out to Delta Dental that has sponsored the Civility Project and makes it free to everybody. And so Stephen and Nolan, why don't we just jump in the interest of time and explain how the Civility Project came to be?
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
I did not mute him. He muted himself.
You wish you had this button. Steve, we're preaching to the choir today. I think the Rotarians, the Rotary, really embody the values and goals of the Civility Project in terms of approaching people with an open mind and open arms, and not letting political differences or other differences lead to hate. And I would just sum up the Civility Project as an effort to combat hate. And we're seeing too much hate in our world today. We are so bitterly divided by our politics and by our partisanship that it's eating away at us. And really, who wants to live with that anger and the bitterness? We're not going to make our differences go away. We're not going to have a country where everybody thinks alike. Sorry, I got a puppy chewing on my cord. Quit. But we can do better to try to treat each other with respect and dignity and civility, and try to come to an understanding of why people think the way they do. And that's what the Civility Project tries to help folks along with, to try to give them a better answer for why somebody might be different from them than, oh, they're just evil or they're just stupid. There are reasons people come to their opinions. We believe that everybody starts the same way. Good people all look at the facts and the information. They apply their own values and experiences to it, and they come up with an opinion. And it's useful to try to understand the values and experiences that lead to that decision making.
This project is a couple of years old now, but really it's been in the works for about 13 years, which is the length of time that Nolan and I have known each other and been working together, and developed what was referred to earlier as an unlikely partnership and friendship. When I moved back to Detroit in 2007, and came back to the Detroit Free Press as leading the editorial page. Nolan was already here leading the news's editorial page, and people pretty quickly thought it would be interesting to get us together on television or radio or other places and let us go at it, let us argue, because we had really different points of view. And we did that, and we were really good at it, and we still are. I mean, we still, if you toss an issue in between the two of us, we will have a good, lively argument about it. But it became evident to both of us, I think, pretty quickly that there was just more to us, each of us, than those political arguments. We had things in common. One of them was a great love of bourbon. Nolan is from Kentucky, grew up there, and so is a native lover of bourbon. I spent the first 2.5 years of my newspaper career at the newspaper in Lexington, Kentucky, and learned to love bourbon as well. And so, that was an easy way, I think, for us to find something else to talk about, find something else to do together, and argue. And so this is the late 2000s when we're doing this, and the political climate in the country is pretty bad at that point. but it's not ridiculously bad. I mean, it's not anywhere near where it is now. And so our partnership was just kind of an oddity, I think, to a lot of people. But over time, if you think of what's happened in the country and how badly fractured we have become, and how bitterly angry we've become at each other, this partnership with Nolan has become an even rarer kind of dynamic, and so we decided to start the Civility Project as a way to kind of share the things that we've learned over 13 years about how to maintain an actual relationship and friendship, across great political divides with other people. What are the things that allow us to have spirited arguments, to get after each other about things we disagree with the other on, but also to be able to have other things that we do together, and not have those things affected by those political disagreements.
Yeah, and our goal has never been to come to agreement. It's never been to convert each other. It's been to be able to have meaningful discussions, try to gain something from them, to have conversations in which we both benefit, even though we're never going to agree on the core issues that we're divided on in terms of viewpoints, but not to let those disagreements keep us from having good conversations and enjoying the exchange of ideas. And, that's a valuable experience.
Yeah, so in the interest of time, would you guys like to suggest maybe 2 or 3 ways that people can go about doing this in their own relationships?
Yeah, so I mean, we talk a lot about kind of core principles of civility, and we should be clear when we use that word civility. We're not talking about, like as Nolan said, we're not talking about trying to convince each other that the other is right. We're also not talking about some kind of kumbaya passive agreement. When Nolan and I argue, we really argue. I mean, and if you've seen us on TV, you know that. I mean, it can get very, very passionate. It can get very bitter sometimes. What we've learned to do, I think, is be able to have those really passionate arguments, to be mad sometimes, even about the things that we're arguing about, and not have it destroy the rest of the relationship. But we talk about some core principles of that, and one of them is listening, right? The idea of listening, and when we use that word in the context of civility, we mean something a little different than what most of us, I think of. I think we tend to think that if we're not talking, then we must be listening. If I'm letting you talk, that means I'm listening. Well, often that's not really true. I mean, I might not be talking, but I'm not really thinking about what you're saying. I'm not really invested in trying to learn about what you're saying or why you're saying it. And what we mean is really listening. What we mean is really trying to see the points that you're talking about from the point of view of the other person. And I have a pretty important test of myself about whether I'm listening in conversations. And I use this on the radio show that I host as well. When somebody's done talking, I always ask myself, could I repeat back to them what they said? Maybe not word for word, but certainly by capturing the idea of what they were trying to say, the spirit of what they were of the points that they were trying to make. And then the other thing I ask myself is, what questions do I have for that person about what they said? If I'm really listening, and I'm really investing in trying to learn what they're talking about, I should have good questions for them about what they've said. I should want to know more, and I should want to understand better where they're coming from. And so that's one of our key kind of dynamics and exercises that we talk about when we talk about civility. But we also talk about knowing more about the people you're arguing with. And Nolan, do you want to talk about how we do that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the starting point, which starts with respect and understanding. And we urge people, if there's someone you feel you'd find value in having a relationship with or understanding better, but they sit on the opposite side of the political field from you, we ask people to sit down first. And before you talk about the things that divide you, before you talk about the difficult subjects, the politics or whatever policy, have a good conversation with each other about who you are. Ask questions about the other person's life and their life experience. What makes you a conservative? What makes you a progressive? What things in your life have shaped your political views? Talk about those things first. Ask questions. Gain that understanding. And with that should come respect and a recognition that there are solid reasons everybody has for why they think the things they do and why they're who they are. Start with that. And Steve and I did that, and he'll tell you about that in a little bit in a session that he set up. But once you get to that point of better understanding and knowing who the person is you're talking to, set honest goals for the conversation. We say that a conversation is not a competition. It's not about one person winning and one person losing. It's not about destroying the other person's argument or really putting one over on somebody. You know, it's about setting honest goals, and those goals should be gaining a better understanding, gaining more knowledge. You may not, at the end, you probably won't agree. But at least you have a better understanding of the other person's arguments. Perhaps you've learned something in the process. At the end, if you can walk away saying, well, gosh, I still don't disagree with that person, but their take was really interesting. I've learned something in that process, or I've sharpened my own position from that interaction. But if you walk away saying, I really destroyed him or her, you know, I think you've missed the point.
I shared in the comments for everybody the link to the StoryCorps. So maybe you want to talk about that, Stephen?
Yeah, StoryCorps is an NPR program that kind of travels around collecting American stories about relationships. You go down and sit in a little Winnebago with somebody that you know and talk about you talk about your relationship, and mostly people take, you know, family members or spouses or people like that. When StoryCorps came to Detroit, I decided I was going to take Nolan down there with me. And so he and I went down and sat in a little Winnebago for an hour and talked. And what I wanted us to talk about was where we get the opinions that we have. Like, what is it that makes Nolan Finley a conservative? What are the experiences that he had in his life that led him to believe that that's the right way to come at things and to try to solve problems? And likewise, I wanted to sit and talk about what makes me a liberal or a progressive. What are the things that have led me to that side of things? And it was a really interesting hour that we spent just talking about who we were. We didn't have an argument about things we disagreed with, not on that day. We just talked about where all of this comes from. And I think two things happened as a result. One was, you know, even though we'd been friends for about 10 years when we went to do this, we learned things about each other that we didn't know before. I mean, there were lots of things that we heard that we had not heard from the other person before about who they were and where their ideas come from. But the other thing that was true, I think, is I think we argue differently now than we did before we did that. I think there is a greater appreciation on both sides of the other's the other's point of view, of the other's arguments, that because we know where they come from. I mean, when you understand why somebody is saying something and you understand the motivation for their point of view, I think you engage with that person really differently. And I think we both have noticed since we did that it led us to a different space, and that's a huge part of what we're talking about with civility, is being able to get to that space with people, the people you just don't agree with, knowing more about where they're coming from and why gives you that space.
I wonder if we want to open it up to questions in case anybody is wondering if they'd like to ask something. You can either put it in the chat or raise the hand, and we'd love to hear from you, because the interactive part of this makes it really fun.
Lynn, thanks much for that. You guys, and this is what Rotary does. You all know it's that time of the meeting where we can ask our guest speakers for today any questions that you may have. So please feel free to jump in. Fred, I see your hand up.
Yeah, quick question. Your message fits very well with our poem today, I think, the Edgar Guest poem, and Rotary fits this mold. Unfortunately, though, we hear some reports that other Rotary clubs, not ours, have had some polarization issues, and they're disturbing to the members, that they don't seem to be getting along. So I think this is great that you guys are bringing this message, and that we could have it on the district level as well.
Yep.
So
Fred,
join Rotary.
Yeah, no, join Rotary, because hey, look, if you live by the four-way test and really mean it, I mean, you really shouldn't have that kind of discrepancy. I see Liz Smith with her hand up, and then Ashok Gupta, you've got your hand up next, Liz.
Yes, Nolan, you used the word early on, the word values. And one of the struggles that I have in today's environment is the difference between views and values. And the way I like to tell that story is to say that I think it is my view that flip-flops are stupid shoes. It is my values that keep me from pushing you downstairs while wearing them. And so I wonder if you two could talk about it. It seems like you've come to a really good place where you can appreciate each other's views, but I have to believe that your values line up pretty closely. And so could you both talk about views versus values and how you navigate that right now?
Well, I think that is a good observation, because we do say in these sessions that we have very different approaches to to what the solution should be, very different ideas of what the solution to a problem should be, but we share the common desire to see a solution, to see a better community, a better world, a fairer place for all of us to live in. Our end goals are quite similar. It's the process of getting there in which we disagree and which we argue based on our experience of what's worked in our lives and in our families' lives. I mean, Steve and I both grew up facing big challenges in our lives, but his were different than mine. And so where I grew up in an environment where the government was never your friend, and where we didn't want outsiders in our business at all. Steve grew up in a world where there were so many other forces against him and his family, that the government, was a welcome friend, and unions were a welcome protector or supporter. Different experiences, but basically the same common goal of, we wanted better lives for ourselves and our families, and still do, and for our communities. And I don't think either one of us want to see what we're going through continue in this country. We have, again, different approaches to how we get beyond that, but neither one of us is satisfied with where things are today.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great example, the flip-flop example, and one of the things that makes dialogue really difficult right now is the assumptions that we make about other people and their values, right? We assume that people who have different views, people who like flip-flops, also want to push us down the stairs. and I'm not saying that there aren't people who are like that. There are people who are like that. I mean, we see every day the dangers of really extremist views. I mean, we woke up this morning to another example of somebody's violent intolerance, taking lives. But for most people, and when we're talking about the people who are in our lives, and that's what we're really talking about here in the Civility Project, is the people we interact with at work or at school, people in our communities. I think it's not useful to make those kind of assumptions. It's not useful to make the assumption that because someone disagrees, that they have nefarious motives or that they lack values. And we are really quick right now, I think, to make that assumption. And some, social media fuels that, I think. I mean, I think social media pours gasoline on the fire of intolerance and shouting people down or locking people out, assuming that people are bad. But I think, taking the time to check yourself and to say, okay, I disagree with this person. I don't like what they're saying. Maybe I'm even offended by what they're saying. But I'm not going to assume that we have different values. I mean, giving people the chance to prove that, I think, is one of the things that we all can do a lot more of.
That's awesome.
At the same time,
we have
if
Liz, go ahead. Follow up.
Sorry,
please.
at the same time, if you do come to a line where, we can argue about footwear, but if we come to a line where you're saying to me, I absolutely have the right to push you downstairs.
Right.
The values, I think, become the line, not the views.
Yeah, and that sort of respect and that you build for each other
Exactly.
becomes the barrier, maybe.
Liz, you know what? I have to love your analogy, given that we know what you feel about flip-flops versus putting the real boots on and getting the work done around Rotary. We know your thoughts about that one. You guys, we have a couple of additional questions. Ashok, you're next. And you've got us on mute. You've got us on mute. You're still on mute.
Okay, this is Ashok Gupta. Even though I'm a doctor, but I have become a social scientist. One thing I love, if anybody can follow, I read Free Press 4 days a week. And you know what? I always listen to Nolan and Stephen. I must have met you one time. My brother grew up in Detroit in 60s. I grew up in Detroit in 70s. I'm sitting in Pontiac. I think the point you guys both made, what is your growing up? That has a lot to do with the difference of opinion. But I think joining Rotary was the best decision I ever made in Auburn Heights in the 80s. And I think if you really want to know, read Nolan, editorial and Stephen. You'll understand who these people are, and they're working together. So whatever coming from the background had a lot to do. You learn about people. I can tell you, I'm sitting in the hospital. I took a break from the hospital. We have 2 TV now, one Fox and other one CNN. I just took a break. I'm sitting outside. It's a beautiful outside St. Joe Hospital, if anybody knows. So I think learn about different people. I learned a lot about Stephen, learned a lot about Nolan. So this is what I think Rotary is all about, really. But thanks, Nolan, for coming and write nice editorial, a lot of education. Same with Stephen, because I'm a big fan of you. One of my students, he's a Rotary Act guy. He worked with me for a year in Pontiac and Bloomfield, his area. Great job. I admire both of you for the Free Press.
Thank you so much for that. We really appreciate that. You guys, we have time for just a few more questions. And again, we do thank you all. Go ahead, Nolan, please.
Thanks, Ashok. I mean, I have a deep appreciation for civic organizations like the Rotary, the Lions, the Kiwanis, the people who come together as a community or community members to do good things in your community. And I worry, when I speak to these groups and I don't see as many younger people as I would, like to see, who's going to do this work going forward. And it is important to take care of our own communities and not to sit back and say, somebody else will do it, the government will do it. This idea of doing it ourselves to make our communities better. That's what Rotary and other groups, civic groups represent to me.
Stephen, do you have follow-up to that?
We are losing these kinds of organizations too.
Yeah.
Not valuable, but they're under threat, partially from the rewards that I think are handed out for uncivil behavior, right? I mean, so much of our culture now celebrates the idea of being rude and shutting people down and shutting them out. So it's not just that these organizations have value; it's that we gotta gird them because they're also under attack.
Yes. You know what I think about when both of you and all the comments that I've heard, and I've got to, be the cheerleader right now for the Detroit Rotary Club. We are first celebrating our 110th year anniversary as a Rotarian Rotary Club here in Detroit, the 16th club overall globally. And then one of the things that I do is when I look at the demographics of this club today, we do have a club that, yes, when you look at us, some of us are over the age of, that mark or approaching it. I won't tell you how old I am. However, our numbers on the high end, if you will, we have as many members, I think, that are 60 years and above or something of that nature, that are 30 years and younger or 40 years and younger. So we have a wonderful split, fortunately enough, in this club that we could see ourselves trying, waning off, with younger members, but we also, and past President Fred is responsible. Rotaract is our university level club, and we have Interact, which is our high school level club. So I'm just so proud of the Rotary Club of Detroit. I think our foundation, and if Russ was here, he would tell me, I think the foundation that we do work within the community is, I think, $1.5 or $1.7 million of an endowed fund that we currently have in Detroit. So yes, clubs are waning off, and younger people may not be so involved, but Detroit, I think we're doing good, and I think that we will continue to do great work based on just attracting new members and so forth. So y'all, that's my cheerleading mode. Bernadette, you have a question. Your hand is up.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you for this presentation. I have two questions. Well, first of all, I just want to echo what Steve was saying about listening to what people bring to to a situation. I'm involved in Launch Detroit, which is a group of entrepreneurs in Detroit, or in Southeast Michigan, actually. And one of the things that I was so impressed with they lead their own group. I'm just a mentor. And Margaret Williamson she's the chief kahuna in this. She's fantastic. But one of the things that our chairperson came to the meeting with right away was a check-in. And she just goes around the group and asks, how was your week, or how were your 2 weeks? Because we meet every other Sunday. And I was so impressed with that. As a leader, she wanted to, it was sort of a leveling field right away, because everybody just 60 seconds had a moment to check in and where they were coming from that day. And then we launched into the business, that sort of thing. And then I also wanted to know, Lynn, what is your part in this? How did you get into this, and what is your part? And it's always great to have a woman's perspective in this. So what is your part?
Thank you, Bernadette. Yeah, no, Stephen and I have been friends since we were on the Michigan Daily staff at University of Michigan many moons ago. And I do public relations and marketing and communications. And so when Stephen and Nolan wanted to formalize the Civility project, he invited me to sort of take charge and plan programs and moderate and get everything out there. So I built the website, and we do a monthly newsletter, and we do social media on Facebook. So everybody sign up for the newsletter, like the Facebook page. And if you are looking to bring a civility session to any other group that you're part of, give me a call, because I will make it happen. So that's my
fantastic. Well, Lynn, I understand from your messaging to me, Nolan, that you and Stephen have got to run to another meeting. So I think we are probably all set with our Q&A time. We would love to have you come back with us and join us in the future, because clearly there's a lot of conversation going on here. You all, I will tell you that we thank you for your time today. We're going to send out gifts. Stephen, you've already received this. I don't know if you want a duplicate gift, but Lynn, yourself, and Nolan, you guys, we have a couple of gifts that we like to present to our guest speakers, one of which is this brass bookmark that represents the fact that that we do a lot of contribution to literacy in the city of Detroit. We hope that you think about us as you read a book and you use that bookmark. And then this is a paperweight that is a timed paperweight that says, thank you for sharing your time with us. We understand it's valuable knowledge that you've shared with us, and we again appreciate you all being with us today. So we thank you so, so much. And everyone, I know that we want to give them big Rotary applause for this time today. Thank you again
Thank
for
you
being
all.
with us. Thank
Appreciate
you.
it.
Have a wonderful day and be safe, you guys. Thank you. Well, Rotarians, I tell you, and I see hands up, Ashok, I'm sorry, they've got to go, they've got to go. But next week, you all, we plan to meet again at the same exact time, the same place via Zoom next Wednesday, the 24th of the month. If you all when you get your rotoscope, please share that with someone. I actually have gotten some comments about our programming, and I just thank our programming committee for all the wonderful speakers that they have brought to us. They just do such a fabulous job. Let's share that with more people so that they can join us. And on next Wednesday, the 24th, we will be happy to welcome Dr. Brad Roth. And Brad is the Wayne State University School of Law and Political Science professor. He has a strong concentration in areas such as international law and human rights. So it's going to be a wonderful guest speaker for us to hear next week as well. So now, as we finish our time together today, first and foremost, I want to say to each and every one of you all, please remain well, remain safe, do what you need to do so that we can hopefully get back together again here in the near future. I would like to share a quote with you as we celebrate Women's History Month. And this comes from the young lady Malala, who is the Nobel Prize laureate winner. She says to us, we must tell girls that their voices are important. And that is as we celebrate Women's History Month. To each and every one of you all, I thank you all again for coming today. And now let us plan to close with our four-way test. And I will ask first.
Is it the
Truth.
Second.
Is it fair?
to all concerned?
Third.
Will it build goodwill
and better
friendships?
And fourth.
Will it be beneficial?
Beneficial to all concerned.
Well, with that, Rotarians, I invite each and every one of you all to go forth and open up opportunities as the heroes that you are and the sheroes that you are, because we know that we are so much better together in Detroit. Have a happy St. Patrick's Day, and thank you so much. Our meeting has been adjourned. Be safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Renee, are you still on? Okay, Renee.
Guess not.
Have to,
She's on mute. I am here, but I'm actually doing double duty. I'm in contract negotiations right
all right,
now.
I'll send you an email. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, no problem. Sorry, guys.
Not a problem. Not a problem.
Let's see. No.
Daniel? Daniel, are you still there?
I think Daniel's out.
Oh, he's out. Oh, I was on, since I'm a kind of a native DC person, I was wondering which fountains were green. I was picturing walking around them because I used to pass the White House every day on my way to work, and I was thinking, which fountains are green?
Yeah, Chicago used to dye the river green every year.
They did it this year.
This year too.
Yeah, they did it this year. Yep.
I was in Chicago. I couldn't go. I was there Sunday, but I think they only for a few hours. I was with the grandkids. So I missed it. I told my son to drive, but I think they only had few hours, and for 4 or 5 hours this time.
Yes,
Sunday.
they did. Yeah, it was very short this year. That's what I saw on the news.
And I was in Chicago, and my son wouldn't drive me. Say, Dad, it's not there this year. Not much. I really wanted to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, being an environmental lawyer who many years worked on projects where we're cleaning up rivers, the idea of putting an artificial color in them kind of.
That's what I was wondering. Is it an artificial color? Is it a natural? What is it? How do they do it?
I don't know, but if it's natural, you wouldn't want that much natural in it either.
I didn't know what they made it from.
Work a lot at getting some of that natural stuff out of it.
So speaking of coloring water green, my cousins up in Rochester who have 3 little girls, and the mother is a first generation from Ireland, tell the kids that the leprechauns come on St. Patrick's Day night, the night before St. Patrick's Day, and uses their toilet and colors their toilet green because they forget to flush. And so,
Oh, no. Oh, no.
so this year, her oldest daughter,
Just like the river.
right, this year the oldest daughter, who's 9 going on 10, built a trap to trap the leprechaun, but it didn't work overnight.
Oh, that's so cute. Wow. Oh, that's great. Wow. If you all are interested, there's a really good program on the World Channel, which is a PBS channel called Ireland County by County. And I've been watching it, and it's I've been to Ireland a couple times, but this is great to have them visit county by county, and they're doing all of them, I think. So it's a good program. Hi, Early.
Hi. Hi, everybody. It's great to see you. This is so nice. Sometimes I'm on Zooms where nobody shows their faces, and this is so much nicer that most people are seeing, so.
Yeah.
Right.
So late last night, Bernadette, I was watching Escape to the Country. That's the British version of House Hunters, but it's delightful because they highlight the region and some of the crafts and stuff for people in the area. But this this PBS County by County sounds like I might use that to.
It's called Ireland County by County. Right.
I did see a little flyer, something in the news about it, but I didn't.
I wonder if we can watch that, on demand as, contributors to our local PBS channel. That'd be
I would
fun.
think so.
Because that way I could go in and look up the counties where my great grandparents came from.
Right.
Right. Well, I think if you just who is your carrier? Do you have a
56, channel 56.
Okay, yeah, I don't know. Usually if you hit episodes, they'll come up and then you can watch them.
If you watch, it'll teach you how to pronounce county. Instead, the way they pronounce it, county. So, yeah.
Interesting. I visited Ireland with my family a couple times, and the most interesting thing is that people would come up to me and ask me how I pronounced my last name. And these were folks who were from Ireland, because there's apparently a couple different pronunciations they have, none of which is like what we do here. The OU, the GH sound is not an F, that's for sure. So there's no Coughlins in Ireland. They're Coughlins or Collins.
Oh, okay.
It's one of those strange names that was hard to write in Gaelic.
And Irish.
Yeah.
Gaelic.
Nope, they don't call it Gaelic, they call it Irish.
Irish, right.
One of the 7 Gaelics.
Yep, that's right.
One of the 7 Celtics. One of the 7
Yeah, it's a
Celtics.
subsidiary. Of course, my ancestors were from Ireland and Scotland and England. So,
have you had your DNA done, Meg?
yes, I have. As Bruno knows, I'm very proud of my non-human portion.
Neanderthal, right.
Yes.
What is? I'm curious. What is your non-human portion?
Neanderthal. I always pronounce that wrong too.
Oh, okay.
And what's the latest COVID research that has something to do with your percentage of Neanderthal heritage?
I don't know, but I
We have
have
a doctor here. You ought to be able to tell us.
I know. I told you I'm I'm 90% non-doctor. I'm a social scientist. I retired. I only kept 1% of my practice. But that doesn't mean I get courses from Stanford because my daughter works there. So I'm very well educated at my age 71. Jeez, I don't...
If you have 1% of your practice, that means every 100 days.
Well, you know, at 40 years, you can only do so much. You can do Rotary Club, Civility Club, Optimist Club, Senior Men's Club of Birmingham, and at the hospital too. So I'm very busy.
Now, Ashok, which hospital are you?
I'm at St. Joe Mercy, Pontiac. It's a 500-bed Catholic hospital. It's 92-year-old hospital, 92.
Yeah, I'm very familiar with it. I've been there.
I hope you don't stay away from there, but you know.
Yeah.
But it's a teaching hospital. I came here. I worked in Detroit for a couple of years, and then I came here. So I'm here since then.
Mr. Gupta,
Yes.
I recently met a man. His last name has the same name as you, and his first name is Vinette, and
he's from Washington. Vin Gupta.
He's from Michigan. He lives in Novi.
We need Gupta. Well, I have a lot of. When my brother came to Michigan in '60s, there were only 5 Guptas over there. Now there are at least 100 Guptas now.
Wow.
We need Gupta. I think I know the family. But I know Sanjay Gupta is the one from, he's very well known from Detroit. Sanjay Gupta is from, and you're from Pontiac, I heard? You're a teacher in Pontiac?
I teach in Detroit, but from my living room in Beverly Hills, Michigan. So I teach at a Detroit school most of the time. Not this year though, but he came into my classroom as a junior achievement volunteer and teaching my students about finances. And so he said he works for ITC, and he's, I think, you know, director of engineering, something like that. And he and another lady were doing presentations for my little kids, my 3rd graders, 8-year-olds, about finances. So it was they did a fabulous job. And I think they're coming for the next, 4 more weeks for 1 hour per week. So, I just noticed your last name and wondered if you.
Now you can find Guptas everywhere now. I have nephews. My kids have moved to California and Chicago, but we have a lot of Guptas around.
Same with Irish people. There's a lot of us all over the place.
Learned from Megan was talking about. We were supposed to go to Ireland, but I didn't think we put on the hold for the next year.
Yeah.
Mr. Beal, how was St. Louis, Missouri, my friend?
I'm in Jackson, Mississippi. St. Louis, cold, I guess.
Nice weather here. I'm sitting outside. I'm supposed to play some golf for 9 holes quickly. So that's about it today.
Yeah, we're expecting tornadoes. We're expecting tornadoes today.
Oh boy. How's the water situation going?
Well, everyone has finally gotten water back on. It's moving, a very old system. And now the governor and everyone is talking about enhancing, putting money in to rebuild the Jackson system because it affects the water at the State House also.
Yeah, well, that's a plus then.
Yeah, right.
That's when you want government.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, remember did that.
Yeah. When Teresa volunteered to do some of the bagging of seeds that our service committee's been working on for Keep Growing Detroit. So I went into her house to collect the seeds that she bagged to take them over to Mebby's house. And here's Teresa and I, we're trying to gather these seeds. And here's the little 3rd graders learning about finance. And it was a bit of a disconnect,
They have videos they play, cartoon videos, and very solid information. What do you know about money? you know, invisible money, you know, the plastic cards, so that the children are learning, you know, and they have their vocabulary down, you know, earn, spend, save, and share, or donate. So, I mean, it's a top-notch program. And I think I have 2 volunteers, because one's showing the other one. And then from now, for 2 weeks now, and from now on, I'm only going to have one of the 2. Maybe we should ask them to come and speak at our Rotary meeting.
Might be interesting, right? Get a hold of Renee, see what she has lined up. This reminds me of when our children were at the Roper School together in the high school. One of the teachers, and they're all taking college prep courses, right? And a couple of the teachers said, these kids don't know a whole lot about real life. So then they had these little supplemental after school programs. How to balance a checkbook, how to fix a toilet, you know, how to change a light bulb, you know.
A tire, yes.
Yeah, how do you change oil? How do you figure out if your car is running low on oil? What other fluids does your car take? You know, they'd have to have a new one with all these electric cars.
Nick missed those classes.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it was Emery. Emery was doing that, of course, Colleen.
And Linda.
And Linda, Emery and Linda Pence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I once flew into Omaha and I needed to go to Kearney to see an aunt on the other side of the family. So my Uncle Jack was lending me a car and he asked me if I knew how to change a tire. And I said, yeah. I pull up my AAA card. I call AAA. He said, you can borrow my car anytime.
Yeah.
Changing tires is something that's sort of out of the routine now.
Right.
That is true. That is true.
Oh, I made sure I made sure both my kids could do it before they drove out the driveway, because I don't want to have to go to where they are and help them out. So, you know, independence. Yeah. That's anyway.
Yeah,
I really appreciate the speakers today. I mean, they were really good and spot on with, you know, their topic and everything. I just, I'm very inspired with today's speakers.
Teresa, if you get a chance, you should participate in one of their sessions in which they give people exercises. You know, they have breakout groups and you have exercises trying to practice some of the things they only talked about today. They did that as part of Fred's program for the district.
And do you know the website or how I sign up for that?
Put it in the chat.
I copied it. I'll send it to you, Teresa.
Oh, thank you. I had to bow out for a minute to do business. So
Yeah, I intend to put it in the rotoscope also.
well, thank you. Thank you very much.
You can
Okay,
always,
well,
if you sign up for them, then they'll keep you alerted to future programming that they're doing.
Oh, thank you, Colleen. I appreciate that.
Teresa,
if you go to the chat, if you notice, if you just click on the chat, she put it in the chat, and all you have to do is click on the, you know, the link, and then that opens up the website. At least on my computer, it does.
Well, I had to bow out of the meeting because and so now my chat is only of this, so I've lost that chat. But thank you, Arlene and Colleen. Thank you very much.
Early.
All right, I might be able to put it back in again.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. You guys are great. Okay.
We can cut and paste with the best of them.
Yes.
Yeah, Colleen and Trey, I really think that the kind of training on how to be civil, it would be good, because I know that I struggle mentally with disagreeing with people's ideas and then not liking them because of their ideas. You know?
I think because you're missing the bourbon. I think that's the part that, you know, if you just had the bourbon that Stephen and Noel are sharing, that, you know, it would be, I'm sorry, either it would make it worse, make it better. I'm not sure which.
Is that their drink of choice? Do you know?
That's what they said. Yeah,
Really?
part of it.
Okay, I missed-
That's what
did
they
they say
always
that
say.
today? I missed it.
That's what they said.
Yeah, they always talk about the.
Colleen doesn't drink bourbon.
Yeah, they always talk about the bourbon. Yeah. I'm a Scotch woman, despite the fact of my Irish heritage. Yes. My father taught me that.
Oh,
But the latest DNA, the latest, you know, analysis from Ancestry, they keep changing it every few months as they get more people in. Whereas I used to show up as 100% Irish or Scottish, now I show up 95% Irish and 5% Scottish. So I guess that 5% Scottish taught me how to drink.
so Colleen, you have none of that Viking blood?
Is that, Colleen, is that because the Irish are all teetotalers?
Exactly, exactly. And I have brothers to introduce you to that can prove that point. Nick, what was your question?
None of that Viking blood showed up in your ancestry?
Wait, if you do it on Ancestry.com, they don't show up I mean, I don't know. I always expected, they show Trey, you know, Trey and Nick have some, but I've had generations of the Irish Catholics intermarrying for so long, they just kind of washed out everybody else, you know. At least when you came to my redheaded blue eyes, you know,
yeah.
I'm just this mass of recessive genes coming from the Irish or something.
Yeah. Yeah, the 23andMe did a really nice, I did their ancestry work. It was very interesting because they, you know, they plotted out how many generations back it would even be that, you know, that my Irish ancestors were commingling with those Vikings.
No,